Welcome back to the Cottage Farmstead. I'm Rebecca and this is Nathan, the two old souls that are working to restore our homesteading heritage in the upstate of South Carolina and showing you how you can do the same. This morning we are heading out to our urban farm plot to plant our fall carrots that we overwinter and harvest in the spring. And they serve as pretty much our main carrot supply throughout the year, and we always like to plant enough and see if we can make it through the whole year. In our zone 7B, 8A, we're kind of on the line, climate, we have to get our carrots in by September 1st, and we have pretty much just a week to go until it's September 1st, so we are cutting it close. So we're heading out. It's not raining today. We did have a tropical storm move through earlier this week, so we just haven't really been out in the garden, but we need to clear off the old popcorn patch, get it prepped, and then plant our carrots for the fall. So all along our tomato tunnel here, we planted carrots back in the spring. And these carrots we don't plant so much for eating, which we do eat the ones that we harvest, but we plant them as a companion to tomatoes. Carrots with their long taproot will draw up nutrients from deeper in the soil, and they also help repel whiteflies. So it's a good companion plant for the tomatoes. Now we will eat some of these as we pull them up in the fall. But we do like planting our carrots in the fall so that we have them all throughout the winter and have a big harvest in the spring when not a whole lot else is coming out of the ground. And there's the last bit of our popcorn patch. You can see everything's pretty much dried off. We have a few ears to harvest. And boy, did the grass take over in the last 2 weeks. We were doing pretty good on the weeds until recently, so we need to get that out before all those seeds drop. So like I said in a previous video, we save the corn stalks because people love buying them for fall decorations. So we're setting aside the tallest and straightest, and we'll put them underneath the carport tied up, and a little while after some of the dirt on the root dries off so that we can dust it off a little bit better.
So here we're just feeding some of the microorganisms that are in the soil, in particular with coffee grounds. We have some feather meal, bone meal, and blood meal, and all of those just help balance your NPK and your microorganisms as well. Hopefully this will really help our carrots to take off well and get well established for our winter crop. Next, we're using what is called the claw to just incorporate those nutrients into the soil so that if we get any heavy rains, it won't just wash away. We like the claw because rather than turning the soil over, it stirs it. And this is a lot better just for maintaining your soil layers, and it helps prevent some of the disturbance of the weed seed bank. You'll still have some seeds come up to the surface, but hopefully not as bad as what it would be otherwise. When planting carrot seeds, even moisture is your greatest ally. For if the seed gets dry at all during the 2 to 3 weeks it takes to germinate, what ends up happening is it ends up dying. So this makes having a nice damp seed bed when you're getting ready to plant essential, but then also covering the bed after you have it planted, just to make sure that when you have a wind crossing over the surface of the soil, it doesn't cause that soil moisture to wick away. So here you can see our soil is already nice and damp. If it was not damp, we'd go ahead and give it a nice deep watering just to make sure we have great water retention, because what the soil does is if you have just the surface of the soil nice and wet but the bottom is not wet, it'll actually soak all that moisture and then it leaves your seed dry. So it's important to have a good depth of moisture. So this can be equivalent to about 1 inch to 1.5 inches of rainwater which we recently have, which is where this is the perfect time for us to plant it. For seeding the carrots today, we're going to be using our earthway seeder. We love this because it's easy, it's rugged, works on uneven terrain, but in addition to that, it gives you a lot more precision than seeding it by hand. With carrots, you otherwise have to focus on really thinning it out after seeding. You still have to do that a little bit with this, but it makes it a little bit easier. So with carrots, you don't have to plant them very deep. We have a depth gauge here which determines how deep this furrow is cut into the ground. And we're going to go ahead and put that between 1/4 and 1/2 inch, so about 1/3 of an inch deep, just enough to get that soil over top of it. And then this wheel back here will compress it to hopefully help maintain even moisture.
So you can see the seed is a couple years old, and the viability of carrot seed decreases after 2, 3, 4 years. So we're just going to mix all of this and plant it pretty thickly in one of our beds. And this is one of our favorite varieties of carrots. It works great in our more clay soil here because it's nice and chunky and will break up the clay. It's also our newest seed, so we're going to do a solid bed of this as well to just ensure that we have a good carrot harvest this year.
So there are two types of fabric that work really well just with creating a blanket-like effect on the soil, just to try to help hold that moisture in. Shade fabric I really like to use in the summer as the holes are spaced a little bit further apart, so it allows less heat to build up while also retaining that moisture. During the winter, it's nice to use something that will actually retain a little bit more heat, so a frost blanket or something that is a little bit thicker, a tighter weave, works really good for that season. Well, that pretty well wraps it up for today. We were able to get the carrots successfully planted, and this is about the perfect time, for we have about 1 more week ideally before the deadline is for our zone, which is 7B to 8A. We're looking at the first week of September being the last cutoff date.
And we'll link below to shade cloth and row cover and any of the tools that we're using here, including the earthway seeder, some of our seed sources, so that you can see everything that we have used today. And we'll also link to a blog post where we talk a little bit more about how to maintain the soil moisture level for optimum germination. Catch you next time.